we going to have a final exam 1 week from today, next Monday. I will be discussing this exam a little later when more people will join us. So let's start with what we saw last time. It was section 10.2 that worked with parabolas. That's our old favorite story. And the little extra that they added to the story of parabolas was a special point called focus, right? So that was the only thing that we saw extra in this section, and they recommended the formula with square term isolated and then for a that enables us to find a, the distance to that focus. That's what we looked at a little bit. We also had a quiz. Let's see what problem that was. Is it part B? Something like that? Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was part B that we had for the quiz. So we needed to graph parabola that I could actually write in such a way as y is equal to 1/4 multiplied by x to the second power. So I just divide both sides of this equation by 4. And this gives us parabola that opens upwards and is expanded. So wider parabola, since it's multiplied by 1/4 and looks like indeed 11 looks pretty much the same. They even have a test point for us here, where 2, 1. So you can double check if you want to have x replaced with a 2 and y with number 1 in your equation and see if that works, and looks like it does, because if you take 1/4 times 2 squared, then it is exactly equal to 1. So it's nice to have a checkpoint so you can always make sure that you did it right. So for this parabolas, actually for that particular one, I can also find the focus just taking the formula into consideration that says x squared is equal to 4 times a multiplied by y. So instead of coefficient with y, I put 4a. So whatever it is, happens to be 4. So I can find that a is equal to 1, and that's exactly where the focus should be located, at point 1, 1 unit away from the vertex. Well, we don't really use this, just kind of formality. That's why I want to move on to something new, because we're already, I guess, very familiar with those parabolas. Anyways, the only story is vertex that actually is not going to be utilized by us, but we can always see the focus, or in the case of ellipse, there are 2 of them, they call foci. There are 2 special points that correspond to the focus, and they say we can produce a picture of ellipse if you have a string connected to this foci, and then use pencil to make the string tight and draw the ellipse this way. So the point is the length of string does not change, and the pencil will actually draw the ellipse for you. You can try if you want to, but I guess that's pretty much all the foci are being utilized. And other than that, they also look at the equation of ellipse that we have here. And in this equation, notice that underneath x squared, they have a squared, and underneath y squared, they have b squared. And the key part is that this equation is equal to 1. So that's the important part. So I can actually visualize how they're using these equations by looking at the graph of exercise number example 1. So they have x squared divided by 4 squared. So they want to put perfect squares underneath. And y squared, now what's squared gives me 7. Well, it's going to be square root 7 squared, because we cannot really square root number 7, and that's fine. And then I can see that the letter A that stands under x variable here is 4, and the letter B that stands under y variable is square root 7, which is 2 and little something, so it's somewhere a little bit above 2. So what people do is they put the A, which is 4, to the left and to the right when they graph ellipse. Then square root 7, they go up and down. You can see this square root 7 is y coordinate of my point. And then once they produce this like a cross structure, that they connect it with ellipse around and get the picture. So that's the key idea of this section, to write equation of ellipse in such a form that you can find those A and B, those special little letters. So let me do problem number 22 here for practice. So I'm in the section 10.3. I think that will be last section for us in this class. I guess we already covered plenty of material. So in the exercise number 22, they give us equation with x squared plus 9y squared is equal to 18. And they want us to graph this ellipse by finding those A and B. And first of all, I have to produce number 1 on the right side of this equation by dividing every entry of this equation by number 18. So this way I can see what's going to be in denominator under x squared, and I can turn this into square root 18 to the second power, because square root and square do not change anything. So in denominator under y squared, I put square root 2 also squared, and this is equal to 1. So A is going to be square root 18, and B is square root 2. Well, square root 2 is about 1.4 and a little something, so a little bit less than 1.5. Square root 18, it's like 3 square roots 2, so it'll be 3, and then 3 times 4, so like 4 and a little something, 4 point something. So let us prepare to graph that ellipse, and I go by square root 2 up and down, and by square root 18 to the left and to the right. So this way we have an idea of how wide this ellipse is supposed to be. So now I can actually connect these 4 points on the top and on the left and right with this new interesting curve that looks like that, and then connect it like that, and then going same way on the left side. So I'm trying to do my best to make it be symmetric. So here's the picture of ellipse. Again, I don't use foci, I just need those A and B, and we got the result. So to graph the ellipse, I have to make sure that 1 is on one of the sides of this equation. So let me scroll down a little bit and see there's, I think, more of exercises of this type in here. So let me try one more problem. Now the center of ellipse does not have to be at the origin, like in exercise 46. We have some numbers subtracted from x and from y, and that's what determines the actual center of my ellipse. So let's see, x minus 3 squared. And also we add it with y plus 2 in the parentheses squared. And this is equal to 18. So we already know the way to start. We need to produce number 1 on the right side of this, and I will divide then by whatever's was the right side. So I produce number 1. So we got these nicely canceled. I got a 2. So let us put the square root and square. That's standard procedure. So x minus 3 squared divided by square root of 2, which is squared, plus numerator is y plus 2 squared in the parentheses, and we put a square root 18 squared. And this is equal to number 1. And it's great because now I know that center of my ellipse is 3 and negative 2. Please notice I always change signs with parentheses. And then a and b are found, they're square roots of 2 and 18. And this is great. So we can go ahead and make a picture. 3 and negative 2. It's probably someplace here, my center. And then I will be approximating radical 2 for a. So I need to go to the left and to the right by like a half distance. That radical 2. And a square root 18, which is 4 and little something. So it'll go up and down a little bit farther. Like that. And then we get the graph, the ellipses here. So I think the nice part of these exercises is they're pretty much all the same, but you need to sometimes do a little bit of work called completing squares. What I'm talking about is exercise like number 47, recommended problem here for us. So let me complete squares. You remember how we did that a while ago? Let me try. I need to prepare my function first. So in exercise number 47, I'm going to be separating the x terms, x squared and 4x, and give it a little bit of a room. And then for the y containing part, I notice there is a 4 that I can factor out. Do you see that? I factor out 4, so there would be a y squared minus 2y in the parentheses. And then I also gonna leave some room here. And the remaining number, negative 4, I can bring over to the other side. So just bring minus 4 to the right, because numbers I don't really care for at this stage. What I care is what is multiplied by my variable x. I take a half of it, remember? I divide by 2 and then square. So it's actually add 4 and then I have to subtract 4. So we add and subtract the same thing, a square of a half with x. And similarly with the other parentheses, now it's y, so I take a half of 2, which is 1. So I add 1 squared and I subtract that same 1 squared. And that's pretty much all I needed, because now from these first 3 terms, I can complete the square. So in the parentheses, square, they put first term x and last term 2. And a plus in between, everything is positive. And same with y's. I put first term y and last term 1, and then minus sign because we have a negative 2y in here. So everything else I'm going to copy just the way it is. So I put -4, there is plus, and then 4 is multiplied by the parentheses, and there is -1 here, and it is still equal to negative number 4. Please notice that -4 on the left side and on the right side could be canceled by adding 4 to both sides. So that 4 is not needed. And that's great. I love when they cancel. So I'm going to distribute so we don't have parentheses. So we'll be left with x plus 2 squared. And then plus 4, I multiply by parentheses with y minus 1 squared. And then by -1, so it becomes -4. And 0 is still on the right side. So that 4 will bring to the right side because we need to produce number 1 on the right side, right? And to produce number 1, I'm going to have to divide that number 4 by itself. So it's standard. It's always take that number on the right side and divide each piece of equation by that number. So the 4 and 4 cancel each other. So what's left? Now we're going to see how to graph this ellipse. So 2 squared is on the bottom. Now y minus 1 is not divided by anything. So I divide it by number 1. It doesn't change anything. So I just put 1 as 1 squared. And that's it. Now we know what the center is. It's pair -2 and +1, right? Change sign inside the parentheses. And also I know what A is and what B is. So A and B are found. The center is also with us. So let's go for ellipse. -2 for X and 1 for Y. So here's our center. And now I need to go left, right. So I need to go A, which is 2. So this ellipse will exactly touch the axis, right? So we go with the 2 to the left and to the right, and by 1 up and down. So it's also going to touch my axis. Okay, let it touch the axis. And then I'm going to connect this with a nice ellipse like that. And like that. And that's it. So we recall how to complete the squares. It was, well, I guess pretty standard procedure that is utilized in this section. So today I don't plan to continue with this. I think we covered plenty of stuff for our class, so I'll stop at this stage. Next time we'll do another exercise of this kind. And I want to say a few words about the final exam as promised, because next week on Monday, we have a final for this class, next Monday. And it'd be in the same format as a midterm. I think it worked pretty well for, I think, everyone in class, right? So I'll give you the same type of exam. I'm gonna email you the practice exercise for the final. We'll work it together. I think about Wednesday. So by Wednesday, I should have it ready for you and email it to the whole class, and then we'll discuss that together on Wednesday, the next class meeting. Then continue on Friday, and then I will email you the final on Monday next week, and expect you to be done with it. So by the following class meeting by Wednesday, I will grade it and have your grades calculated and posted on the Blackboard. So next week, Wednesday, You should know your grade. And if you don't like it or want to improve it, well, talk how this could be done. And of course, the first thing is to do some homework. So the final will be emailed to you on Monday morning, and you will do it just like it was the midterm. That was the plan. So that's how I administered the midterm. So I don't plan to change anything for the final, because it looks like it was working for everyone in class. So why not? I will do the same thing for the final as for the midterm. Now for the homework, let me see what we covered since the midterm to remind you of what sections you should finish up with and email me your work on those. So we started with chapter 4 after the midterm. So for the homework, we did sections from 4.1 to 4.5, right? 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.5. And then in the chapter 5, we did sections 5.1 through 5.6, the logarithm story. And then we moved to chapter 10, and we looked at a couple of sections in chapter 10. It was parabola and ellipse, so 10.2 and 10.3. So this will be your homework to send to me by email whenever you're done with it. So of course, ideally, to send it to me before Monday next week. You have the whole week to finish up with it. And if you did not do it yet, well, that's fine. I want to help you. In fact, what I did, I posted on the YouTube recordings of all lectures for our class. How about that? So what you can do is just see what I did when in class, and then you can basically do the same problems. So here's the link to this YouTube channel that I highly recommend you to subscribe, because otherwise it'll probably be very hard for you to find it. There's so much stuff on that YouTube nowadays, and that's why subscribe this channel, and you will be able to see recordings of the lectures, and you don't have to watch all of them. I know it's time consuming. You can just browse through them, and you can see the exercises that I did. I usually do them on the margins of the pages, right? So you can basically do pretty much the same exercises and submit it as your homework. So you can see various sections here, and you can see what I did in those sections. It's all recorded, and it's convenient. I think that it is in the same folder. I put all the lectures in one single folder for your convenience. You don't have to look for one or the other lecture, so it's all there. And this way will be the best to finish up with your homework. So again, you should have access to this, and I'll just posted link in the chat, and I will also email this link to those people that are not here today, so they can also have access to this channel. I put there not just lectures for college algebra class, I put it for all my math classes and statistics and calculus, business calculus. So you might be able to utilize it later in the fall semester. I don't plan to take them off the channel, so you can see the lectures, and it's a free textbook and everything there with problems worked out. So I think it'd be helpful if you want to refresh your memories if you decide to take more math classes, or if you just want to quickly review it. Statistics, there also I have lots of lectures in that class. I will also add there those MGF 1106 and 1107. I've taught them a while ago, so I will dig out those lectures as well. So anyways, that's one of the things I wanted to let you know today. And well, the other part of the story is, I guess, look forward to my email on Wednesday. So we're gonna be preparing for the final exam together. I don't give you a quiz today. I'm gonna just stop the recording and see if you have any questions.